Hey everyone, welcome to your playlist video for November 2019. Let's jump in with our first game. So, The Outer Wilds is... Nope, got it wrong every single time. So, The Outer Worlds is the latest game from Obsidian, who are perhaps best known for Fallout New Vegas, which took the Fallout 3 engine and added in a bunch of extra RPG elements, a richer storyline, and more dialogue-driven quests like the amazing Beyond the Beef. It's probably the best Fallout game in the whole series, if we're being honest. Which is why I was so jazzed for The Outer Worlds, which was billed as Fallout New Vegas in space. So, the same mix of shooting and talking, the same focus on factions and companions, the same ability to talk your way out of a jam. Sounds good. And it is good, very good, but there's a few things about it that left me feeling a little flat, so let me describe them. The big one is that on the default difficulty setting, the game is just way too easy. And when it's effortless to gun down enemies, it renders every other aspect of the game kind of meaningless. You don't need to think about skills, perks, tinkering with guns, or anything else because they don't really factor into whether or not you win an encounter. Difficulty balance is really important then. If it's too easy, you don't encourage a player to actually engage with the game's systems and they lose their meaning. So next time I play, I'm bumping the difficulty up to hard. Another disappointment is one I mentioned in my video about making talking as much fun as shooting, which is that using dialogue is kind of like using a cheat code. Someone will ask you to do something, usually going off and killing something, and you can pick the dialogue option with a skill check and bam, you almost always just kind of skip the quest and get paid anyway, plus an extra bonus for just being so awesome. You are simply the most persuasive person in the galaxy, and it's really easy to build a character who has amazing skill check capabilities. And the final thing is, it almost feels like a New Vegas fan game, or a total conversion mod. Like, it hits all of the notes you would expect from an Obsidian-made first-person RPG shooter. If it was in New Vegas, it's here, just with a slight twist and a spacey repaint. Though, I do keep forgetting that this isn't a post-apocalyptic game, to be honest. It's all ramshackle buildings, slightly empty worlds, and there are dead bodies everywhere. I keep forgetting that I'm not in the Fallout universe. So it ends up feeling a bit by the numbers, a bit predictable, a bit this is what the game was supposed to be and kind of is. Is that really enough? I'm not sure. So that's an awful lot of negativity for a game that is actually perfectly good and well made, and I would recommend it. There are just a few things holding me back from falling in love with this one. And that is a shame, because we do need more games with rich and involved storylines and non-violent methods for getting through quests and things like that. So I'm definitely interested to play more and to find out what you thought of The Outer Wilds. Outer Worlds, every time, can't get it right. The Outer Worlds. Next is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And boy, is this a bizarre mishmash of different games. At the beginning, this thing is pure Uncharted. Like, you're doing hand-over-hand climbing, swinging from ropes, there's a section on a moving train, there are bits where you just grab onto something and it crumbles away beneath you. It is at least the best take on Uncharted since Uncharted, with more convincing cinematic action set pieces than Tomb Raider and similar games. After that though, the Uncharted influences take a step back for something completely different: Dark Souls. So we've got lightsaber combat with dodge rolls, parries, blocking, and stamina. We've got a system where you lose all of your experience points upon death and have to work your way back to the enemy who killed you to get them back. There are, essentially, bonfires where you spend XP, and resting to heal and replenish your Estus flasks, stim packs, makes all the enemies respawn. But outside of the Souls influences, there are Metroidvania-style locks and keys, and Zelda-like collectibles where you need to find 4 health doodads to unlock 1 boost to your maximum HP. But really, the game that Fallen Order reminds me of most is 2018's God of War. That game also pilfered a bunch of ideas from various, largely Japanese sources. A little bit of Zelda here, some Dark Souls there, a pinch of Castlevania. And, like that game, there's something a bit false about Fallen Order. It's more of a patchwork quilt of influences rather than anything truly coherent. And it's almost like it took those games and rounded off the sharp edges for a more approachable game to fit a more Western audience. As an example, when you open up a pathway that connects up to an old checkpoint, it says, "Shortcut found." That was never necessary in Dark Souls. Players could figure out for themselves the ramification of opening up a door or lowering a ladder, and felt much smarter for figuring it out themselves. Of course, these are very good games to rip off. Fallen Order could have had simple button-bashy combat, but instead it has quite thoughtful, tactical and deliberate combat. And its world is now an interconnected spaghetti maze of upgrades and locked gates, thanks to its Metroidvania influence. And just in general, like God of War, this is a well-polished, well-made, enjoyable game with plenty of cool moments, great cutscene presentation, interesting puzzles, and more. It's just, like The Outer Worlds, it does ring a little bit hollow, but I'd still recommend you check it out, and am interested in playing further. So there's just 2 games this month, I'm afraid. Essentially, I'm still playing the games I talked about in previous installments of Playlist. My fiancé and I just hit the Eagle Tower in Link's Awakening, so we're doing well there, and I'm still digging Disco Elysium. And while I've briefly touched Death Stranding and Pokemon Sword for that accessibility video I just made, I'm not going any further in those games until I clear out my backlog. So, I'm sorry, you'll have to wait a little bit longer for my thoughts on these new games, but hopefully you found something interesting here. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next month. Bye!